Hey y'all, welcome back to Hey y'all, welcome back to my Hey y'all, it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in July, and hopefully this isn't coming to you too late in August, but it's better late than never. I read 6 books in July and they were all 4 or 5 stars, which is crazy. That rarely happens. I am quick to give a book a low rating. Let me say not quick, but there are some people who are kind of hesitant, who don't like to rate books like under 3 stars or always DNF, and I don't always DNF a book. If I'm really not feeling it, I will. I haven't been hate reading lately, but sometimes I want to continue to see where this story is going, because sometimes it has promise, and then sometimes they don't deliver on those promises, and it just has to be a lower rating. But I had an excellent reading month last month, and I'm going to share those books with you now. I read 4 books that I already owned, and then I read 2 that I borrowed from my library. So 2 of the books that I read in July were rereads, and I do own the physical copies, but I listen to them on audiobook, and so you probably already know what those are. So the first book that I finished in July was my reread of City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. So I listened to this on audio, like I said. The Empire of Gold, which is the 3rd book in this trilogy, so the final book, came out June 30th. So of course, as is my brand, I always like to reread books in a series before the final one comes out. So I listened to this on audio, which I do recommend. I did not dislike the audio narrator. I won't say she's the best, but I could tolerate her voice. But if you don't know, City of Brass is an adult fantasy that's set in Egypt. So it does start out like in the human world in Cairo with our main character Nari, who is seemingly this innocent human girl who somehow has these healing abilities, and she uses that to get by because she is an orphan. And then one day she accidentally conjures a djinn while trying to heal this little girl, and that djinn is like, I don't know, they're just a little human girl. So they go on this adventure to this magical city called Daevabad, and so that's obviously, it's a fantastical world, but it's outside of Egypt, you know, but still very like Middle Eastern inspired. And that's kind of all I can say without giving away spoilers, but it is so good to have a fantasy book that is not a European inspired fantasy. And the world is just so rich, just full of a beautiful cast of characters and all these wonderful hues of brown. And so we have Nari, we have another main character, Ali, who is the prince of Daevabad, and then obviously we have Dara, who is the djinn that she conjured, and there's just a lot that goes on, and it's so good. I loved it rereading it. I loved it more than I read it when I read it the first time. 5 stars, highly recommend. So then the second one, The Kingdom of Copper, and this obviously is a sequel. When I first read this and I finished, I didn't know how to feel, and I think it's because it didn't look like it was going in the way that I wanted, but that didn't necessarily make it a bad book. So rereading it, I was like, what was I thinking? This is excellent. And it's mainly because when I first read these 2 books, I had a different ship in mind, and rereading them, I realized that that ship isn't the most practical or healthy ship. So I changed my thoughts, and I end up enjoying this way more. And so I can't really talk about it because it is a sequel, but it just know it continues, it gets better. It does not suffer from second book syndrome. To me, it is 5 years after the end of City of Brass, and I think that kind of played into how I felt about it the first time too. But Shannon, you know, she could have dragged it out and put more books and really took us through that 5-year gap, but she did right by us, and she gives us a good summary of what's happened, you know, and the story picks up at a good place in the second one. Oh, just know, it's so good. And I'm still salty that this was nominated for Best Adult Fantasy in the Goodreads Choice Awards, and the book that won was Ninth House. So still salty about that, because have you read Ninth House?
But when we talk about fabulosity, I don't see it.
Whatever, I'm still salty about Ninth House, and I'm salty about King of Scars. Those both came out last year. King of Scars came out in January of 2019, Ninth House in October, November. Still mad. I'm definitely gonna have to make a video about those one day, because I still have so many feelings that I need to get out. You should read these. I read Empire of Gold already. And I'm not gonna say anything because that's another video. But damn, I'm thirsty though. I hope y'all are staying hydrated. And wash your reusable water bottles. I just washed mine this morning. I'm looking out for you. Okay, next book. So then I read The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I've owned this book for a few years, was intimidated by it, but finally read it. It is in my 20 books I want to read in 2020 list. And I, on my July TBR video, drew it out of the mug where I have all those titles inside the mug, and I drew some out at random. So I drew this book and another book, and the other book I DNF'd. I don't know if I should talk about that. But anyway, this is an adult sci-fi. And what threw me the first time I tried to read it is one of the point of views is in second person. And I've never read a book in second person before, but this is following 3 different people. And in this world called the stillness, the world ends all the time. There's always like some big like volcano or big earthquake. But then people go on, and there's also people in this world called, it's either origines or orogenies, who basically help like quell these quakes. They can feel when the tremors are coming on, so they've basically been helping people through all of these like world-ending catastrophes. But the 5th season is the final time the world ends. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on in here. And so the orogenies, that's what I'm gonna call them. That's what I call them in my head. They have this great power, but then of course, let's get back in frame. The government like keeps control of them, so they either go to the special school or they need to be like registered, or people don't want them to live in their communities. And there's like stone eaters, and there's just all these different creatures and people, and the storylines and the POVs as the book continues to go, you see how they're working together, and by the end you're like, what? Oh my god. And it's so good. I know that's really vague, but it's hard to say more about this book without getting into spoilers, because some people consider a whole host of things spoilers. So that's just basically what's on the back cover. But just know that if you're into sci-fi, adult sci-fi, and just something written different, N.K. Jemisin's writing is so distinct, but it's so good. The second person did take me a little bit to get into, but I know why she did it. It is purposeful, and it really like pulls you into the story. And I did go ahead and order the next 2 books in the series, because I definitely need to finish. I heard they get even better, which I'm worried because I don't know what's gonna happen, but I don't know if I give this 5 stars, 4.5. It was wonderful. I recommend it. So this next book, I know you're tired of hearing about it, but I mean, I finished it in July, so you gotta hear about it. And that is Ruin. Okay. Ruin by John Gwynne. 3rd book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. I know, every video that I've made, I swear I've been talking about this book, but I can't help it. So I'm just gonna make this short. This was perfect. Okay, this was 5 stars. Every single page of this like 765 page book was necessary. I will say that my only complaint about these books thus far has been the amount of characters, and how a lot of them have like their names start with the same letter. Like, hold on. So there are a cast of characters in the beginning, which is very helpful. But there's like, okay, for example, starting with the letter C, we've got Corbin, Cywin, Cian, Connell, Coralyn, Camlin, Cassius, Calidus, like, and then there's a lot of B's. There's like Brennan, Brenna, we got Braith, Balo, Baird, Brogan, Balor, Belial, Boone, just like, so sometimes I would be reading it and have to go back to the beginning to be like, excuse me, who is this? But I will say that he does start at least the first 100 pages reminding you where all of the characters were at the end of the second book, because they're all in different like groups and like sides, and they got split up. So he's letting you know who's on the good side, who's on the bad side, where they are, what happened, and where they're going. And then the cast of characters in the front is helpful. But the plus side to a lot of POVs is there's a lot of short chapters, and I love me a short chapter. That makes the book go by faster to me. But like I said, I felt like every page of this was necessary. And as the book is titled Ruin, that is how I felt after the book was over. Ruined. This destroyed me. I am so nervous, but I am reading the fourth and final one, Wrath, this month. So maybe after that you'll stop hearing about the series, but maybe not. But last thing I'll say, I've said it before, I think this is a good series if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, as I am, but it's finished. 4 books, they're done. So you don't have to worry about waiting an eternity for the next book. I gave this 5 stars, in case you're wondering. So those were the 4 physical books, well, you know, books I already owned that I read this month. And then, so the 5th one I read was The Poppy War. And when did The Poppy War come out? 2017? 2018? I remember everyone hyping it up. And they loved it so much, and I was like, it doesn't really sound like my thing. And then I remember looking on Goodreads, and the overall score is under 4.4 stars, which is surprising. Usually when a book is that hype, it's usually like a 4.25 or something, which Goodreads scores should not be the end all be all, but I'm just saying. So the 3rd book in the trilogy comes out this fall, so I think a lot of people have been reading it and or rereading it, and I saw it in a couple of people's videos. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. Beauty of the library. So I did request it from my library, got it in, and I loved it. So it is an Asian-inspired fantasy written by R.F. Kuang. It is adult. There are a lot of trigger warnings for it. If I can find like a blog post or a video linking the trigger warnings, I'll link it in the description below. So I know those are important for people. I mean, the book was fine for me, but I just have heard a lot of people talk about the trigger warnings. And so it's following Rin, and she is basically an orphan. She's living with this like really crappy adopted family who sells opium, and they're shitty to her, go figure. And so she is trying to get into this really elite military school. So she has to study really hard to get into this military school, and so a good portion of the book is a school setting, which I love. A school setting, especially a magical school setting. And another thing I loved about Rin was I mean, she's not perfect. Sometimes she did frustrate me in the things that she was doing, but she wasn't, like, she gets into the school, but then she just isn't magically good at everything. I hate when it's like, oh my god, I never knew how to do this, and now I'm just the best sword woman ever, or whatever. But like, she has her strengths, but she also has a lot of weaknesses and faults and things that she has to work on and work really, really hard on. And I love seeing that. I love seeing that journey, and not just like this perfect character who comes in and they just rock at everything. And so I really enjoyed that. Obviously enjoyed the school setting, and just like the lore of the world and the whole like war that is going on in the country. So interesting. Just all like mythology and everything that is involved is just really different than a lot of things I've read, because I mean, to be honest, I've read a majority of Eurocentric fantasy written by white men. I'm just gonna say it. So this was very refreshing. It's just like, it's not just like, but it's like the look at the City of Brass. I love fantasy, and it's amazing when you get a different culture to inspire the fantastical world, and it's done so well. So that's why I think the City of Brass is amazing, and R.F. Kuang, her not Dragon Republic, that's the 2nd book, The Poppy War, so good. So Dragon Republic is the 2nd book. It's already out. I haven't read it yet. I am going to, but then the Burning God comes out in November. Hear me out. I've got a problem. So I don't own The Poppy War or the Dragon Republic yet, because I read The Poppy War from the library. When I buy books, for the most part, especially if I love them, well, that's the only books I buy now, but that's a different story. I want them either all in paperback or all in hardback. So The Poppy War and the Dragon Republic are out in paperback. However, when the Burning God comes out in the fall, it's going to be in hardcover. Like, so like, do I want to wait and just get it from the library and then buy the paperback next year, or should I just get them all in hardcover? What do you think? If you have an opinion, leave it in the comments. Is anyone else like that? Like, I don't like 2 paperback and hardcover in a series. I have these right here. Look at this. I have a hardcover and these 2 paperbacks. This is unacceptable, but this series isn't finished though, so I need to remedy that, but I don't like that. It's not cute. No, it's not. So I have to fix that. But anyway, great book. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. But I'll read the Dragon Republic probably, October-ish, probably. We'll see. Okay, so let me get some water. The final book I read in July. Are you ready? The sixth and final book that I read in July is Vita Nostra, which was originally written in Russian by Marina and Sergei Dyachenko. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And so obviously it was translated into English, but it's a trilogy and the second two have not been translated into English, and I'm so sad. I'm so sad. But anywho, let me tell you about this book, okay? Focus. So I was looking for books that included dark academia. Now, typically, when I think dark academia, or what my experience with books with that in it, they have been white kids, usually rich, pretentious white kids, at a school or college in the northeast United States, who like to wear like cardigans and drink sidecars and study Latin and Greek and the classics. They're just so posh, and you know, maybe there's a little murder or something a little dark. And that's really it. And they're boring and they're dry and they're stale, and I'm sick of it. So when I saw this, I was like, ooh, something interesting. But yeah, I've been wanting to read more dark academia that's not the fucking secret history. And I know people love that book, and if you do, great for you. I haven't even finished it because it's a bore, and the audiobook is horrible. Horrible. How dare she narrate her own book sounding like that? Anyway, I want to write a dark academia book, but make it black as fuck though, okay? Not all, I'm sorry. I'm sick of this boring shit. Like, I know people love the classics and Greek and Latin, and you know, white people exist and there's pretentious ones, but I don't want to read that shit no more.
I said what I said.
So anyway, Vita Nostra. Set in Russia, still white folks, but it's cool. But it follows Sasha, and she's basically, it starts the summer before, basically like her senior year in high school, and she's just trying to enjoy the beach with her mama, and this mysterious man pops up and is just like watching her, and she's like, odd, I don't like this, and he approaches her and basically gives her like this crazy task that she has to do every day or else, and she's like, I don't know you, like, why would I do this? But she does it. But then one day she doesn't do it, and something happens to her mom's boyfriend. And she's like, oh shit. Okay, he wasn't playing. So she continues to do these tasks that he keeps giving her. And in exchange, she gets these gold coins. She has no idea why her, what is this for? When she goes back home, preparing for her senior year, trying to get everything in line to go to university, he pops back up again and is like, so about that university, you ain't going. We got a special institute for people like you, and that's where you're going. And she's like, no. He's like, haha, remember what I said? You don't do what I say and bad things happen. So she ends up going to this institute that's in this little town that really no one's ever heard of. No one's heard of the school. Of course, her parents are not happy, or her mom's not happy. But she knows. She's like, well, I can't say no because he's gonna hurt you, or he's gonna hurt someone in our family. So she's not the only one there. Obviously, there's other kids who are there too. Like, yeah, I didn't have a choice. I had to come here. And they're learning normal things like math and English, physical education. But the really weird part is it's like metaphysics. Yeah. So it's a lot of like mental stuff that they're doing, but it's so trippy. Like, the exercises that they have to practice and what they do in class and what they do when they're not, what happens to them when they're not doing well. It is insane. It's dark, it's creepy, but it's fantastical. It's weird, but I liked it. Like, I really had to concentrate sometimes. I'm like, hold up, let me read that again. And it made my head hurt. But it's so different. Like, I haven't read a fantasy like that. You know, I love me a school setting. Sasha herself was frustrating sometimes, but then it was also so interesting to see how she changed from the start of the book to the end, and just how she had to be in order to survive this school. And Y'all, it is fucking bonkers, but in a good way. So I really hope that they translate the second two, because there's no hope of me learning Russian and I need to know what happens. But if you're just looking for something completely different than you've ever read and you like your fantasy a little dark, I would say to read Vita Nostra. Highly recommend. So again, I had a really good reading month. I gave Vita Nostra 4.5 stars. I can't remember. They're 4 to 5, you know? It's on Goodreads if you care. How was your reading month in July? Did you read any new favorites, any 4 or 5 stars, or anything terrible? I mean, you know, let me know. You know, like I say, engage with me in the comments. Leave me your favorite emoji. How you doing? How you living? How are you surviving? I know this is a little off topic, but I saw an article that the Rona cases are starting to spike back up here in Sicily, and I am scared. I am worried. And I just wish the reality of 2020 was not our reality. It's like the worst and longest episode of Black Mirror ever. And I did not ask to be in it. I know we had, what was it, Bandersnatch, the interactive one, but I didn't ask for this. We didn't want this. So anyway, I hope that reading at least is helping you, comforting you. It's really my biggest escape. I really haven't been playing The Sims as often as I'd like, but I have been reading. But today that I'm recording, this is August 8th, the first day of Tome Topple. So if you are participating in that happy reading, I'm going to start The Way of Kings. Woo! So wish me luck. I probably won't read that much in August because I'm trying to tackle 2 big books. So if I get those done, I will feel accomplished. But I already did finish 1 book. Please like, please subscribe, share with your friends. All my social media is in the links down below. My description always has a bunch of stuff in it. So go read it. Take care of yourself, drink some water, wash a reusable water bottle, put some chapstick, wear your sunscreen, sign some petitions, don't be a racist. Like, simple things. Wash your hands, wear your mask, or just stay your ass at home. Y'all, we got a long way to go before we can talk about Rona as a thing of the past. So do your part. But thanks for watching. Bye. I forgot to mention that I did DNF 1 book this month, and it was from scratch. And it's a memoir, and it's really a memoir about loss, like loss of a loved one, and I just was not in the mood for that. So it's definitely not a put down forever. It just was, I wasn't in the mood for it. So I'm gonna put it down, and maybe one day I'll read it, but I couldn't. It was just too heavy. Flapping about books you love makes me thirsty. Oh, water, a blessing. Sorry.